Hi, AK. How are you?
Hi, Matt.
Hi,
how are you?
Hi.
You weren't serious enough today. You were more concerned. I'm good. How are you today? Good. Are you as excited as I am?
Great. I'm very, very freaking excited. I'm very excited. We have a guest today. I'll just go ahead and not bury the lead. We have a guest today for the show, and we haven't really even talked with this guest the level of gaming or TTRPGing side of his life, but we definitely know, and many other people know that the ADHD side of his life is huge. But what are we?
This is ADHd20. What is ADHd20, Matt?
Well, it's a podcast that finds the intersection between ADHD and
TTRPGs.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, no more further ado. Enough of us.
I know.
Jesse J. Anderson. I just want to call you Jesse J.
Jesse J. Anderson.
Play some good hype entrance music in there. Welcome.
Yeah.
Author of Extra Focus.
Yeah.
So good to have
great
you.
to be here. I love the idea of some hype music. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll work that out.
We got that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have that in post, as they say in the industry.
Yeah, perfect. And thank you for getting the J in the middle initial. That's always really important. I actually grew up with another Jesse Anderson that our moms are friends. And so even in that very small circle, I was already getting mixed up with other Jesse Andersons.
Other Jessies, okay.
I've really tried to get that branding in there with the Jesse J. Anderson.
Mm-hmm. It's great. So, and that was one of my many questions for you today was the J. It seems very important. So
I Googled.
It's also kind of fun too, because I don't tell people what it stands for. So kind of there's this air of mystery to it. What does the J stand for? I will say it's not James, so not a Jesse James.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm going to leave that as a mystery. So
it's Jedediah, isn't it? Jedediah.
No, but that is actually one of my kids' middle names is Jedediah, mostly so that we could call him Jedi.
I did not know that, and that is
you nailed it. Actually, while we're talking, I didn't expect to start this off with all the middle initial things, but my wife also, her middle initial is a J. So then we kept that for our kids. So we didn't want to do a weird thing where every kid has the same letter for the first name, where it's kind of something's wrong with this family, maybe.
I know families like that.
We all know families like that.
But we did it just as kind of a fun thing. So every one of our kids also has a J middle initial. So we're all something J Anderson, which is pretty cool.
And each one of everybody's middle name is a secret.
Except for Jedediah, because you called that one out.
I truly did not know the answer to that one. I will say I assumed it was Jesse J. Anderson because I Googled Jesse Anderson and the very first hit was a serial killer and a really creepy mugshot. So I just assumed you wanted some space.
Now you know the other reason why I always use my middle initial. Yeah, serial killer that was murdered in jail with Jeffrey Dahmer. So it's real serious real fast.
We don't want that.
And then if you scroll past that, you get to, is it Yu-Gi-Oh? There's a Yu-Gi-Oh character with my name as well. So that J really a very, very important.
Very important. So everybody listening to this right now, run, don't walk to buy the best book, Extra Focus by Jesse J. Anderson.
Yes.
Does anybody ever call you Jesse J. Anderson?
Actually, yeah, especially I'm video games. That's my username in a lot of places. Just
there
Jesse
we go.
Anderson.
Nice.
And I always hear Jesse J. Anderson.
Jesse J. Anderson. Amazing. Well, we're so delighted to welcome you on here. As I mentioned before, Matt and I are big fans of your book. We will absolutely be dropping into the show notes. Such a fun read.
Yes.
I reread it. And the best part of ADHD, Matt and I talk about this a lot, is Matt and I are different in this regards. I'm a rewatcher, rereader, re-experiencer. I like the whole comfort blanket of these things, but it's especially fun when it's always like the first time, even the second or the 47th time. So I was reading it this week and I was like, I've read this before, but this is brand new information. This is brilliant. It's so rare to me. What genius wrote this?
I honestly, I get the same thing. Sometimes I'll be doing an interview or something and someone will mention a strategy. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. Did I put that in my book?
They're like,
I got to take some of my own advice. That's great.
We're going to talk about something in a bit called the 4Cs, and I just want to go ahead and spoiler alert this. That is you, okay? That's not us.
I do have that one locked down. That one's
Okay,
pretty,
good. Okay,
pretty locked down.
Good.
Well, let's start from the very beginning. A very good place to start. Let's talk just a little bit about your backstory, because like Matt and I, we've learned from you that you were also an adult diagnosed fellow. So I'd love to hear just pre-diagnosis, post-diagnosis, what that was like. That's the biggest question we get, is what's the diagnosis process like as an adult? Yep, Matt.
Right.
AK though, did you want, before we even get there, did you want to
The D100
you
table.
want to subject our friend?
We have to.
guest?
I can't believe that I forgot.
Right. Yes, it's okay. So
Such a turd.
little quick pause on the backstory. So what we do, Jesse, is we have this D100 table, and sometimes in our podcast, it's the only thing TTRPG related.
I don't have any D10s, I don't think, within reach.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Not everybody is a dice gremlin like I am. Either we can let you do an online roller, like if you just Google D100, or I can roll some real dice.
Yeah, let me
me
Google real quick. Here comes my very official roll.
I love it.
Of 89. 89.
Nice.
Feeling fine. Okay, I actually kind of love this for you, because we're going to, talk life as someone with ADHD, as a content creator, etc. Is there a viral trend that you've participated in as a content creator or just a person?
Oh man, that's a great question. Let me think. Because I kind of don't do a lot of those, partly because a lot of those are really big on like TikTok. Like it's so important to like know what is the trending joke that everyone's making right now, or things like that. And I often try to do, a lot of the content I try to do is very evergreen. I will say, when I got started, I had joined this, the way kind of this whole thing of like writing and talking about ADHD stuff online was I joined this writing challenge that was called Ship 30 for 30. And I don't know why I joined the writing challenge. Do you know it?
I don't, but that sounds fun.
Is it kind of like a NaNoWriMo?
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. It's sort of similar. So the idea was basically write what they called an atomic essay. So write a short essay that's like 500-ish words every single day for 30 days. And then you ship it. So you release it that day. And at the time, the way that we were doing it was actually, it was really popular on Twitter at the time. This is probably like 4 or 5 years ago. It was really popular to write your essay and release it as an image, because at the time there was a lot of like engagement for like articles as images on Twitter. And so that was kind of their model of doing like an atomic essay. And that's really how all this started, because I don't know why I joined the challenge. For some reason, it sounded kind of fun, and it was novel. So yay, I'm in. And I wrote down like a bunch of topics, some of them about design or like software, because that's my background. Yeah. But one thing, I learned a lot about ADHD because I'd been diagnosed, and then I thought, oh, maybe I'll write a few articles about that. And then very quickly, those were like really resonating with people, and I was kind of like finding my audience or finding my people before I knew that I wanted to write about this more. And so that kind of really snowballed and started the whole thing. And actually is what led to writing the book, because I had written a bunch of these atomic essays. I ended up doing that challenge a couple more times. So by the end of that, I have like 20,000 words or something here. This could be a book. And then I ended up throwing most of that out and rewriting most of it for the book. But that really is what kind of got me the idea of like, hey, I could actually do something like this and really write something that would be helpful for people with ADHD. So yeah, that atomic essay thing on Twitter really was where I got started.
The dice tell the story every time. Matt remembered to go back into the table, and the table is the thing in the backstory that launched the whole reason that we may be here talking today. Oh, I'm obsessed with it. I'm going to look into that. We need to participate this year. But oh my gosh. I love this.
NaNoWriMo is unfortunately how I got into my endless quest for note managers and productivity managers and those things.
Did you jump around the Rome Research, Obsidian, all that kind of PKM world?
We don't even have time to talk about all those things. Yes, every single one. I have been using the app Tana for 3 years now. Okay. So I finally found one that with the help of my ADHD coach, Her name is Brittany Smith, and she helped me kind of narrow down, and your book, of course. So I am no longer, at least now I know when I'm futzing around with things.
Right now I'm mostly using craft, which is very nicely done, but it's definitely not as powerful as Tana.
We got to be careful. This could go on forever.
Yeah, you really could. We've actually had to have, sometimes we have like interventions on this podcast with each other.
Yes.
Right.
And Matt's usually have something to do with some kind of PKM.
Some kind of PKM.
It's an adventure, though.
Really, yeah. You have to be very, very careful and mindful about it. So then before you were diagnosed at the age of 36 with ADHD, what was life before that? What was it like before, and then what changed? Did you take it well? We've already heard like when the ADHD journey became public, which is similar to us. Let's just start talking about it. But what was life like before? What is your origin story?
Yeah. So I, like, growing up in school and stuff, I think, like many people with ADHD, I was like, well, something's weird, something's different. I don't really know what it is, but I know that I seem to be struggling in certain ways. And it seems like nobody around me, like my parents or teachers, none of them really know what's going on either. They just also see that something is wrong and they're trying to help me fix it. And they don't know what the heck they're doing. And so I was just like struggling, like the same sort of like, pretty common story of being like, it seems like maybe he's gifted, but then he's also struggling in really obvious ways. So I was getting like this weird thing. For me, I always like aced all my tests that I ever took. Like, I don't think I ever got less than maybe a B+ on a test. Okay. But I just never did homework because I got to that point where I got bored with homework and it was so hard to do. And then I just started to feel like it's useless. I can't get myself to do it because it doesn't feel like there's a point, because I'm acing my tests and I'm learning this stuff. And so I couldn't figure out the why to do it. And that made it feel impossible. It's like, it's boring and pointless. I'm not doing this. This is not going to work. And so like my dad would sometimes, try to get me to do it because he could see that it was affecting my grade. And I would, I would sit there for like 2 hours and have nothing done at the end of it, trying to do it the whole time. Not like being obstinate or like whatever. I just couldn't get myself to do it. And so there was a lot of different like struggles like that all through school and just like feeling like, and the emotional dysregulation was a big part of it too. I had a super short temper. I would get angry at very, very simple things. I had a lot of like in elementary school, some of that, I don't know, it seems stereotypical now because I've heard it from so many other people, but the notes from the teacher that's like, like has so much potential, but keeps getting in his own way, talks too much in class, disrupts things, can't stay focused, like all of those like things. And then even like, too emotional, like gets too emotional about things, makes things a bigger deal than they are. And all that was like, but it feels like a big deal, not knowing that, I'm getting that like emotional flooding. That's what's happening. I'm feeling all the things that a neurotypical person would feel when they have reason to feel extreme emotion. Yeah. And so that's why I'm responding that way, because I'm feeling the way that you would feel if it was extreme. But anyway, so that was kind of all through school, all of those like different struggles. And also the procrastination, getting like here's your senior project. You have like 6 months to work on it. And I'm going to do it all like the night before and do pretty decent, but just like have the craziest no sleep, cram everything in right before it's due. And then so once I got out, that was kind of growing up in school, and no one ever said ADHD, by the way. Like no one had ever mentioned that could be a possibility. And I think part of that might have been,
knew that it existed, but not for you.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the thing. I feel like ADHD has that PR problem where like everyone's heard of it, but we all think it's something else. And I felt that way too. Like I'd heard of ADHD and I knew like other kids in my class where I'm like, oh, that freak over there, he probably has ADHD, but not me. Because he was the kid that was the stereotypical 90s version of ADHD,
bouncing off walls,
running in circles, bouncing off the walls.
And that was me, but as a girl, I was completely, she can't have ADHD, she's a girl.
Right.
That's not, she just talks too much. She's too emotional.
Right, yeah. It was like such a narrow scope for what people were looking for. And it was just a boy who was running in circles.
Right.
And that was kind of like it. If you didn't fit exactly that, they wouldn't even mention it, which just seems kind of wild now. But yeah, so that was just struggling. And I think a lot of the difficulties I had as well were things I could see in my brother and my dad. And so I kind of thought, like, these are just like weird family quirks. Like, cause my dad has it, my brother has it. Like, these must just be weird Anderson things, that we have kind of in common. And, you know, later finding out like, oh yeah, my brother got diagnosed and my dad, he's not technically diagnosed, but Dad, if you're listening, you have ADHD. But yeah, so that was school. And then and then in my 20s, I just jumped from job to job to job because I would get a new job and I would thrive at first. I'd be like, feel like I'm employee of the month, like I'm doing amazing. And then I would get bored, or then I would be like, I really have to do timesheets or like expense reports. And like, this is not going to work for me. And I probably had like close to 30 jobs, maybe more, just in my 20s. I was just like jumping all over the place. And then finally kind of landed in software development, cause I was doing a lot of like front end design and stuff like that. And then I kind of landed a role that was a bit more stable. But then, in my 30s was when a friend of mine got diagnosed. And so he and his wife, I believe they were doing like marital counseling or something. And in that process, his diagnosis came out. And then his wife and my wife were really good friends. And they started talking about ADHD. And then my wife comes back to me and she's like, all right, look, I know that if I tell you I think you have ADHD, you're just going to deny it and not want to look into it. So she's like, I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say, maybe you should research a little bit about it so you know more about ADHD. And I did that.
Did you have that reaction when she said that?
Kind of, yeah. I think I even said which sounds so silly now. I think I even said, I can't have ADHD because I have no problem focusing on things I'm interested in. Which, you know, I knew about hyperfocus, but I didn't know that it had a name. I just knew that meant I can focus on things really intently. And previously I thought, if you have ADHD, you can't focus on things intently at all. And so I had that 90s version of ADHD in my head. The 90s version. So I dismissed it.
Which, in the book, you talk about this a lot, and Matt and I talk about this a lot, the misnaming of ADHD, both from it's not lack of focus, it's regulation. We don't like disorder. We don't like deficit. Can you kind of give us your take on that here?
Yeah.
Or even better, what would you call it?
Oh, man, I wish I had a good name. I have thought about that. I've seen some other proposed ones, and there's definitely better ones out there. But I will say, it's a terrible name for a bunch of different reasons. Because just like right at the start, like attention deficit is the opposite of what it feels like to have ADHD. It's like, I don't have an attention deficit. I have a surplus. The problem is I'm paying attention to all the things I'm capturing. And then it becomes so much noise that it becomes difficult to pinpoint. And so my brain's just focusing on whatever's most interesting rather than whatever is most important. Because I'm just like, everything is kind of flooding in at the same time. So right off the bat in the name, it's a terrible start. And then it goes to, then you have, attention deficit hyperactivity. And that is again, kind of gives you a picture of what it is. And a lot of people have the inattention, a totally different type of ADHD where hyperactivity doesn't sound like a label that makes any sense to them. And so again, that's hyperactivity being part of the name is just not great.
Yep. Though speaking of things that we've reread and I didn't pick up on the first time, there is at the beginning when you're talking about this in your book, you pointed out something that I'd never thought of, because I can't not have a fidget or my knees. I've never thought of myself as being hyperactive, though, like the kids that we're talking about, like the dudes that were on Ritalin just to calm them down. But you are so right. The internal hyperactivity can be a thing for sure, right? I think if I'm masking so hard, I'm cutting into my palm, bleeding, just trying to control myself. Because there's definitely, I think when most people hear hyperactivity, you're thinking of a specific thing, and it's very external and big and a lot of movement.
Where a lot of times hyperactivity is like much more internal or just like, fidgeting. Like that is so common. I'm like actually like a little annoyed right now because I have a specific fidget I like to use and I don't have it here. And so I'm like grabbing other things to just sort of like flip around in my hand instead. I'm like, where's my good fidget though? Where did I leave that?
Yes, I
and
know.
now I'm like, we're like talking and in my brain, I'm like walking through my house, like trying, maybe I left it on my backpack because I did a trip 2 months ago and I don't think I've seen it since. Anyway, it's the whole thing.
You're in a safe space, man. So if you need to go and find that thing, we are here for it.
That maybe this may be a safe space, but that is not a safe idea because I might not come back. Who knows what'll happen if I head out there?
Yeah, that's going to begin the trope of, and then I saw that the trash needed to be taken out, so I was like, let me do that. I was out there and I discovered that I needed to hose down the...
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm
finding my fidget.
I'm in a podcast. What does it look like? I knew that my current therapist and I were going to be a good fit because the first time I've never met him in person, but it's all video now, of course. And he got the camera came on and he's a very handsome older gentleman and sitting in his office and he was doing this. And I was like, oh man, I'm in the right. I found the guy because he's just rocking back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I have this problem where you'll notice it now that I'm going to point it out. And I swivel a lot.
I do the same
because it feels when I'm doing it, it feels like it's not on video. But it totally is if you know what's happening. Yeah, it's one of those, like, that's definitely another kind of fidget. But yeah, so that hyperactivity, there's a lot of different ways that it happens. And also just, I think, like with racing thoughts, like that can be part of it too. But when you hear the word hyperactivity, you think like, oh, I'm not that boy running in circles. And so I probably like don't have ADHD. So it's kind of become, it's this name that kind of has like a dismissive tone. But the reason it has this PR problem is it has this weird thing of like, most people have actually heard of it. It's not like one of those things where people are like, oh, what is that? Yeah. It's just, there's a stigma attached to it. So it's like, they've heard of the thing and they think it's something entirely different. And so I think a lot of the like advocacy work that I'm doing is trying to like, hey, you've heard of this thing and what you think it is, that's not what it is. Let's kind of dig deeper and help people understand what ADHD actually is. But I do wish there was a better name where the name itself could help with that conversation instead of it being like, all right, to start, name is terrible. Here's why it's bad.
For sure. I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, and then the relationship to autism and the relationship to the possible relationship to all the other divergent pieces, and just the fact that Allison's version is so different from mine in so many ways. It's just, it is very frustrating.
Matt and I get jealous.
Thank you for being an advocate for that. Yeah,
we get jealous of each other's ADHD. It's like, I wish I could do that. You can do that, but I can't do that. All the time.
How are you on time? What the hell, man?
I have time hyper awareness instead of time blindness. I know every second. But I think that we've already brought up masking. I think that's a reaction to me spending so much time with some Allison on Allison violence.
Yeah.
That like I just now, like, there's never a point in the day when I am not just hyper vigilant about it because it stresses me out so much.
And I feel like that's more, I don't actually know if this is anecdotal, but I feel like that's more common with women just because of societal like pressures and stuff like that. You end up having to come up with your own systems because it becomes such a scary thing to be late. And for me, I've like tried to do that, but it's a different level of, I don't have the societal pressure I think that many women have with that time stuff. And so I feel like that is more common. Whereas me, like time, I was late to this, a few minutes late to this because I like, oh, we have this, I've got this thing and I've been in waiting mode for a while. So I know it's here, but let me go refill my water real quick. And I'll do that. Hey, there's someone else that's at our house today. I'm gonna have a little conversation with them and oh no, I gotta run to the thing. So yeah.
We get it. We get it so completely. And there are things, and Matt and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, is Matt's slightly older than I am. So both the generational differences of what it was like for Matt to, grow up true blue Gen X, whereas I'm an elder millennial. What was it like for the boy versus girl debate? And even now, like, women are kind of expected to be the timekeepers and have their act together in certain ways.
Right.
Which then I think one of the things I was reading the book last night, and you were I don't know if it's his real name, but you're referencing of Brian. I actually have that relationship with my friend Sarah, who is also a diagnosed as an adult, and we do the thing where we're like, I folded the laundry and I put it away, and we have to like. As 40-something women have to text each other that like high five moment of like, there are not clothes on my couch right now, and I need to celebrate that with somebody.
Totally. Yeah. It's been really helpful having that friend that I can do that to, because a lot of times it's like, I can't tell my wife that, because she's not going to be like, hey, good job for actually doing the dishes the last 2 weeks one time. But I also know that getting that little, like that attaboy from my buddy, like is going to help me do better going forward. So it's kind of like balancing that dynamic and finding out how I can help my own brain without being like loser husband that's like wanting, wanting praise validate for doing me. One tiny little thing. Yeah, please validate me. Yeah,
well, that's the hard part is that my house is not supposed to be messy because I'm an adult, and my house is not supposed to be messy because I'm a woman. However, I'm a woman with ADHD, so my house is messy, and that's just... That's how it is. And so removing the stigma and the shame from that aspect of it and being like,
right.
It is what it is. So I love all of it.
Yeah, I think that is so important, that just the idea of removing the shame and the stigma, because growing up with ADHD, you're basically like building this like shame backpack. You're just like because all this, like everyone's looking for something to blame. It's like something's wrong. What do we do about it? Where does the blame go? And the blame goes down to me, and I don't know where else to point. And so it just all goes on my back. And so you build up all this like shame and like, oh, all the shoulds, like shoulda, I should do this, I should do that, and then feeling guilty and bad for it. And I think a lot of like when I went finding out I had ADHD and then trying to, restore some sense of like self-esteem and everything like that is ridding the shame. Like, I don't need to feel bad for how I am. And it's like, some of my stuff's going to be messy. Okay, like I can do stuff to like help with that, but I don't need to feel bad about it. Like that is just I think it was Casey Davis that said like shame is a terrible motivator. It's like, that is not helpful to feel shame for this thing. Like it's not going to help me. So why am I doing that? I need to like stop feeling that shame anytime something doesn't line up with what I think society expects, like #adulting should be. So I think that's really important. Just learning how to get rid of that shame.
Okay. So you've invoked the name of Casey Davis, who as a female with ADHD, I very like the fact that she was willing to go on TikTok and show her messy house and show her routines again and again and again. And I clean it and it gets messy. And, these are all the things I'm dealing with as a wife, as a mother, as somebody who's trying to work a job and live a life. So could you talk to us a little bit about your transition into kind of sharing your journey publicly, how that's felt and been for you?
Yeah, so it's been, I feel like I feel like what you're saying about Casey Davis is like it's kind of brave to be able to just be like that open and honest. And I kind of feel like I wouldn't put that label on me. And I think part of that again is the society, the societal pressure on women. It's much braver to kind of show that in our society because of the stupid pressures that it kind of exists. And I feel like I was much more free to share stuff without having to worry about like backlash. Like I don't get negative comments when I share that like certain things are a mess like that. And so I feel like it was actually pretty easy for me to just kind of be open book about a lot of the things. And I didn't, so I, like I said, when I did the writing challenge, it just was like kind of like openly talking about things that I had learned, because I was at that point, it had been a few years and I was just trying to become a student of my brain and learn everything I could about it. So then I was just like excited to share, like, hey, here's all this stuff I learned. Here's, rejection sensitive dysphoria. This is like, I didn't know this at first, and it's really important thing to understand, and like sharing a lot about that stuff. And then I kind of ended up like finding my niche. I mean, I kind of am just like airing my dirty laundry in a way where like a lot of the content I write is me just making like, it's just like self-deprecating humor about the things that how ADHD kind of messes up my life. And how it kind of like gets in the way. And it's like, wow, this is ridiculous. And I think part of it is when you have ADHD, you just kind of learn to, or most of us, I feel like really learn to lean into the humor. It's the whole idea of, like tragedy plus time is comedy. And when we're time blind, we jump past that really fast. So tragedy, pretty quickly, we get to that comedy, and now it's just like hilarious. So yeah.
You just made me have a realization that while you were saying that, and I want to take a moment to appreciate it, that we're just living on opposite sides of the same coin. As a woman, I'm not supposed to have a messy house, and there's a stigma, and shame attached with that. So it shouldn't be hard, but it is. But as men, you're not supposed to ask for validation for doing things that we all should be doing as functional adults.
Right.
At the end of the day, we both have dishes in our sink. Like it's still the thing that we're all struggling with.
Right.
Just very different shoulds that got us there. So I still am gonna give you bravery points even if you don't want to take them. But you're still sharing a journey, and I don't want to skip over that.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that at all. But you're right. There is because there is different pressures, but there is some sort of I feel like I can't ask for this validation or it's not appropriate or whatever. Sure. And if I did, my wife's great and she would give that to a point probably.
Right.
But it feels bad to ask. And I feel like a lot of strategies I talk about in the book, is really about learning to not feel bad about the things that are going to happen and not feel bad about needing help to get stuff that might be easy for other people and needing to build in routines and systems to be able to compensate for things. Because the reality is we live in a neurotypical driven society.
Yeah.
And so for us to fit in and function as part of this society, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Some things we'll be great at, other things not so much. I mentioned before, timesheets, that's my favorite. If a job has timesheets, I ain't compatible with that job. That just ain't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that kind of eliminates a lot of jobs because a lot of jobs have certain things like that that are just expected of people. And that's why I think a lot of people with ADHD have lots of jobs. It's fairly common because we're bouncing around trying to find what is something that is going to be interesting enough that I can stay connected and do this job, but not have any of those useless activities that I see. What's the point of this? I can't motivate myself to do it because I know that it's busy work. It's not actually doing anything purposeful. So we end up jumping around jobs because we're nope, this has this issue. I'll put that now on my own mental list of can't have this, can't have this, can't have that. Yeah. Until I finally kind of find that job that hopefully, find that job that works, and I can actually thrive at.
Matt and I, by the way, call that the whying game. We have to have the why. And Matt realizing it wasn't until you pointed it out that we have to have the why because otherwise just do this. And see now, I'm a freelancer by day. If I don't fill out my timesheet in the form of invoicing clients, I don't get paid. That's a good enough why for me to invoice. I like getting paid. It's nice to pay for the things I like.
But yes, but the as we all know, and this is a perfect segue, I think, that you started to getting into the 4 C's of motivation. But how terrifying it was for me to learn that sometimes not even that is enough motivation for me to create invoices for captions that I've built or something like that. I understand that doing this fairly easy thing is going to put money into my account and I still put it off. That's the part that always blows my mind. Or things that I love to do and I know that they need to get done and I just don't do them that day.
If only we had someone here who had written this book that talked through 4 different ways or 4 things that could be combined.
Non-self-harming series.
Jesse, do you know anything about this?
Maybe I have something I could say about that. So I think that's a really great example. Having that invoice where it's you have to do the thing, it's really important. It's really important to do this. There's a big reward for doing it because I'm actually going to get paid. And the consequence of not doing it means I can't pay my bills. And so you really have kind of that trifecta of it's really important. It's really important. It has rewards and it has consequences. And that is what most people that is how they get motivated. That's how most people find motivation. Like, and you look at most productivity apps and you can see what they're doing often is surfacing the things that are really important. Like they're built around that sort of like importance, rewards, consequences, like trifecta. But the problem for people with ADHD is those aren't actually motivating for us at all. Like we know when they're important. We can see the rewards. We can see the consequences. But it doesn't give whatever that like internal spark is that helps us start doing something. That doesn't show up for that. And like I said before, like my dad setting me in front of like homework and like I'm there for 2 hours. And often what would happen is he would start ramping up the consequences. Like if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to have dessert tonight. And I didn't do it. So then it's like, okay, well, if you don't do this, you're going to be grounded for the weekend. Oh, or you're going to be grounded for a week. I'm going to take away all your video games. You're going to be grounded for a month. And that consequence kept getting bigger. But the thing inside me for motivation did not change.
Never changed.
Never got triggered.
I still had zero motivation, even though I really wanted to do it. Like wanting to do it is not the same as being like motivated to do it. So yeah, the thing that is different for us, the reason we're not motivated by importance, rewards, and consequences is because we're motivated by what Dr. William Dodson calls the interest-based nervous system, whereas most people are importance-based. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, the 4 C's, I kind of rebranded it in a way that helps me remember it. And so the 4 C's of motivation are captivate, create, compete, and complete. And so what those 4 are, so captivate, when things are interesting, though that is motivating for me. So that's why people with ADHD, we get into hobbies and it's really easy to get motivated to do things for those hobbies because we're interested in it. And it's also why a lot of times we do projects that are related to, like you guys starting this podcast. It's related to things you're already interested in. And so it's easier to find the motivation to see this project through and to be motivated to do maybe some of the other parts of the project, like maybe the editing isn't as fun or posting it isn't as fun, but it's part of this overall interest. So it's easier to find the motivation for those things. So that's captivate. And the second one, create. That's all about like creativity and novelty. And this is one I do all the time, especially for like boring, tasks, is introducing something creative or like playful that a lot of times it seems silly, but it helps me kind of get over that initial, again, that kind of that spark, like something to spark just enough of that kind of brain excitement that I can get started doing it. Cause once I start doing it, it's easier to continue kind of like I'm in motion already. You have that like inertia kind of going. So it's all about kind of like sparking that initial, that task initiation. So that's create. And then the third one is, compete. And this one's all about like competition and challenges. And I think some people hear this and some people with ADHD are like, oh, I don't like a challenge, but I think it's all about finding kind of that sweet spot where it's like just challenging enough where you're like, ooh, I would feel really good if I solved that thing. Like kind of like if I got past that, it's kind of that, I think James Clear calls it like the Goldilocks zone where it's like, it's challenging enough that it'll feel like a real accomplishment if I do it, but not so much that it's like this intimidating wall where I'll never be able to do it. And I kind of think of for me, the example, I remember like in a math class where the teacher would like, first day of class, teacher would like write up some sort of difficult problem on the board and say, no one in the last 3 classes was able to solve this. And then they would go to like, let's go to our lesson, blah, blah, blah. And now for the rest of the semester or whatever, all I'm doing is I'm going to solve that problem. I'm going to be the one that takes on that challenge. So that's always really engaging for me. And then the fourth one, complete. That one's all about urgency. So like due dates, deadlines, timers, all of that. And I think that one is maybe almost the most obvious for people with ADHD. Like we know when things are urgent, we get motivated. That's why I did so many projects like the night before that it was due in school. And that's also why a lot of people with ADHD thrive in roles that have urgency. So like EMTs, a lot of like medical field, people with ADHD do really good in those sort of roles because it's urgent. It's in the moment. There's that energy to it that helps motivate them to do well at their job. And I also hear there's a lot of people that work in the news actually with ADHD. And that's a similar sort of thing. It's very urgent. It's always new. So there's there's the urgency, there's the novelty. A lot of times you're going in it because they're interested in it. And all of that sort of fuels motivation. And when you're motivated, then you can thrive at sort of that job. So yeah, so that's the 4 C's of motivation: captivate, create, compete, and complete.
I love it. I can also add rock and roll musician and actor to that list of news. Just simply because that's what I was a musician for a long time, traveling the country. I didn't know I had ADHD because, like you're saying, everything is just you get into a van. It's the time wasn't a problem because someone forced me to go where I needed to go, and then the show itself, even if I was so bored by things like loading in, the show that night had to happen. That's just the only that was the urgency. Yeah,
totally. You show up because, like you said, it's got to happen. And so then I feel like people with ADHD, we most of us thrive in that environment where it's like you got go big or go home. We got to go big. We got to go all out and then really make it happen. And not only that we're able to do it, but that we do really well under that pressure. Pressure, even though I don't love pressure, I know that I do really well when I'm in that pressured situation. So a lot of times, even if we're like, our emotions, I'll put myself in this situation, even though it's like, it's a little bit stressful and I may crash afterwards and just not want to do anything afterwards. But in that moment, I'm probably gonna rock it. So I'm gonna show up in that kind of urgency, that urgent moment.
Yeah. It's funny because I was reading, I was having the same, like, Matt is very famously canonically non-competitive. I am very competitive. And I remember even like the first time reading this, thinking through like the different ways Matt and I may use the 4 C's. I'm now subtracting C's. There's 4 of them, I swear, to approach things. But I love the framing of compete, that it's not like where you're competing with someone else. You're competing against yourself. Can I set a timer and get the dishes done? Can I, reward with I can watch my show when I unload the dishwasher? And the thread that emerged for me through all 4 of them is just the word novelty. The other thing that you said, there are 2 other things you said in the book I want to point out that I absolutely loved in this section. One was you called it a ta-da list instead of a to-do list, which I am so guilty of. Like, sometimes I will write things down just for just so I can cross it off if I've already done it, because it feels good. Yeah. So
the to-do list is exactly that, because a to-do list can be so intimidating. You write down all this stuff you need to do, and it feels like overwhelming. Like, where do I even start? But with like to-do list, 100%. Usually write down half the things that you've already done, and then you get that really satisfying check it off, scratch it out, like something really satisfying to mark it as done on your list. And then you're looking at a list where like, hey, half the stuff that is already done. It doesn't feel that difficult to get the rest of the stuff. So I love the to-do list.
Everybody have that one. And see, I have to like throw glitter in the air and like, ta-da!
Absolutely. Celebrate it.
The other thing, and I see this especially prevalent in Matt, but you had said something around basically like, know that they're going to change. So what's motivating you today is not the same thing as next week. And I see this in Matt where like sometimes there's like a shame and a stigma attached once again of like, this was working. Why is this not working anymore? And so it was just so nice. It was like this warm hug from a friend to hear like, it's going to shift. It's going to change. It's going to be fine. And you might come back to it later. It can circle back around. Yeah. And I don't think enough people
when they update something with all new features and functionality, you might go back to something. You might. But whatever.
That's never happened.
Totally. I feel like that was a lot of that came from in like the 2000s, where I was trying all the different getting things done strategies. And I was looking for that magic, perfect system that I would spend, a whole weekend building, that's going to work forever. I'm going to use this for the next 10 years. I'm accounting for every possibility. And it's like,
I'm curing my ADHD.
I'm curing my ADHD. I've got this super fun. It's almost like a game of building this system that's going to be so great. And then 3 days in, it's like, oh, I'm not using that again. I got bored of it. The novelty's gone. Or I only pulled out all of the dopamine while building it, and now it's not helpful to me anymore. So that's, and I think that's again, one of those things where I just had to learn that that's my behavior and that's okay. And it's okay to abandon and like pivot to something else.
Yes.
Whether it's a giant productivity system or whether it's a strategy, like talk about the 4 C's. I'll try something that helps me do the dishes, and maybe that helps 3 times and then never, ever again. Or maybe not for like 6 months. And then I try that one again. And that's why like the 4 C's is not like a prescriptive thing. It's very much like, it's almost just like kind of like the D100. It's just like a prompt to help you think about a new novel kind of creative way that could help you get started, spark that initiation for the task. So it's not about feeling bad. You're not looking for a perfect system, like, cause it doesn't exist. A perfect system, perfect strategy. If you have ADHD, you're never going to find that. You may find something that works for a long time and hold on to that. And that is amazing. Yeah. But when it stops working, don't feel bad about that. Just use your very creative mind and find a new strategy and not feel guilt about it. So it's all about learning that.
What I love about the Tana community, which I'm a part of, and they even like immediately created a neurodivergent ADHD brain channel in their Slack. We meet every couple of weeks and we talk a lot about how it's not working for us, how Tana's not working, and the things that we can't do, and the other tools that we might want to use. But that's kind of the beautiful part about it, is that I've many times told my friends in this channel about that concept in your book. It's like, look, number one, we're literally here because of Tana, but don't worry about it if you leave tomorrow. And also the idea of try it for a project. That is such a great thing. That is like, and the freedom that it gives you with ADHD, the freedom of like, I'm just going to try it for this one thing. Therefore, I know where that project lives, and I know, so that it cuts down on so many things that but I can't tell you how many times I've told people in that channel about that, and they're like, wow, I didn't think about that. But we're here to talk about Tana, right? I was like, whatever, man. I mean, we know we like this app, and the developers are so cool, so it doesn't matter. Who cares? Yeah,
I love the freedom of, we don't have to get married to everything. We can we can be with something for a season, and that's okay. Well, should we talk about I know Matt's got some burning questions for you around productivity systems, just kind of in general. We've been trying, and I think this goes with the novelty aspect, right? Is that we love to, I mean, you can even see it in the outline that we sent you, right? I called things bonus actions. Like, we have to give some kind of like TTRPG, D&D adjacent naming structure to every single thing that we do. Like, this is the campaign, this is the arc, and, this is who's the big bad of this, whatever we're pitching to a client or whatever it is. And Matt's been trying for a while to come up with the system. I'd love to hear y'all jam on that.
It's funny. Yeah. When I talk about it, I think I was creating this thing, and what I was really using was, this is before this started before I read your book, before your book was out even. Mm-hmm. I was really kind of touching on some of these 4C's, and I didn't even know it. Mm-hmm. Tools rather than the system, because I was in that boat where, and it's a sad boat to be in for a while until you do allow that freedom and that ability to just let go and say, look, it's not going to work for you. Just let go. Don't worry about it. To build a system that you think is going to work. Mm-hmm. What I was doing really basically was something I think that anybody with ADHD can do, though. If you find a system that speaks to you at any time, because there will be another one. There will be getting things done, and there will be para, and there will be bullet journal, and there will be everything, and they will all come, and pieces of those will really speak to you. And I think, like you say, they'll speak to you for a couple of weeks, or maybe a month, if you're lucky, a year or two. And I found that if I, which C would it be? It'd probably be the captivate part. Mm-hmm. I would take sort of the para parts, which some of it makes a lot of sense to me, and then kind of translate that into a game. But one thing I did want to kind of, so in other words, a lot of it doesn't work in the end, because it is still at its core a system that that my inner punk rock teenager is going to fight, because I'm telling her, hey, you have to do this, right? And that's the first thing. This is going to help you. Oh, yeah? Yeah, you. It's not helping anybody, right? Like, I'm not going to help you. That tends to happen no matter what. But some of these cool things that you have been a part of in the past, or, and probably will be in the future too, like the idea of trying to take the guilt out of everything. It has worked really well. When I'm really struggling to think of the energy levels or the motivation levels as hit points or experience points, depending on where they go, I'm captivating myself by giving it a number and then kind of monitoring that, which is another thing I don't like doing, which is kind of like, okay, here's kind of a daily log of things that I'm doing. But yeah, I wonder if in your tools you find some of these threads that go through all the new shiny systems that you go, and you kind of have found that doing your best to track energy, doing best to track motivation instead of priority, and even sometimes instead of urgency, kind of carry with you throughout. Do you find that, like, those threads? Or
I'll say, like, what you're talking about there, I think is awesome. Like, it's a lot of just kind of like gamifying, like, stuff you need to get done. And like, I know for me, when I've done, like, I don't know, for me, my favorite part of doing like D&D or whatever is the character sheet, like getting to fill in the little bubbles and picking your starting equipment, all that. Like, that's the most fun for me, probably, of the whole thing. There's obviously rolling dice is really fun too, but there's something about like getting to like set things up in a certain way that there's like really a fun thing to that. And yeah, I think that really kind of, it's like the captivate, but also the create, because you're getting to be sort of like creative and sort of like taking this like unique angle on it, and you're really gamifying it. And I know, a friend of mine, Danny Donovan, she has like this amazing book called The Anti-Planner.
Beautiful.
And it's so full of stuff, just kind of like what you're talking about. It's just like all these kind of like silly different games, ways of gamifying you actually getting stuff done. And like, because making it creative in a way that is interesting to you is a really great way to find that motivation to get stuff going. And so I think that's awesome that like this is kind of, you're basically trying to like, what am I interested in? Oh, this whole thing with the TTRPGs and like the character sheets and all that sort of stuff. And you're trying to use that specifically in getting other stuff done that's not related to that. And I think that is super powerful. Like, I love that. I do a lot of different stuff. Like, sometimes, again, like the dice rolling thing, like sometimes I'll do that with cards where I'm like trying to figure out what to do. And so I'll assign a task to 4 different cards, and then I shuffle and draw one at random, and that's the one I do. Unless I really hate it, then I get one free redraw. And like gamifying it like that makes it a lot easier to tackle the stuff, because when I'm looking at the 4 tasks, maybe I don't know which one I hate the most. But then if I draw it and I'm like, oh, now I know I really hate this one, and so I'm going to do one of the other 3 randomly, that can help me, again, that initial spark. And once you get going, again, it's that like task inertia. Once I'm moving, that card that I hated isn't going to be as difficult when it's not the first task. Right. It's that initial part where it gets really hard. And so, yeah, I think doing any sort of stuff like that to gamify it, really, because it's like there's that part of our brain that is just always wanting to be interested and entertained a little bit. And it's like we have to give it, it's like you have to feed the monkey in your brain a little bit. You got to give it something interesting, and then it'll be like, okay, fine, I'll let you do the thing you're actually trying to do because you've pleased me with this, something fun to do as well. So yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of anything where I can fill in bubbles or stuff like that. Like that always, like I said before, like I used to do that with the old like RPGs. Like I had RPG books where I wasn't doing anything with my friends. We were just buying the books and looking through them and filling out character sheets and stuff like that, because that part was fun. So yeah.
Now, okay, but my second part of that is, what have you personally done to be self-aware enough to realize that that moment where you are having fun and doing that, but you are not doing any work, and that is stopping you.
Yes.
And where the building of this, which can be really fun and can help, the Captivate Create, very helpful. But then what in your wisdom, where have you gotten to the point where you're like, wait, whoa, Jesse, this is actually keeping me from doing stuff? Where are you in that?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, first, it's not easy. Like, there's no definite, like, this is how you can solve that. Because I will definitely easily get sucked into the system building because it's fun. It's fun. Like, I can build systems all day long, never use them, and just keep building them. And because that's exciting for my brain. It's really fun to do that and think about the scenarios and all of that. So it's hard. A lot of times what I do, literally, like, I have timers going all the time. Where I'll just I have a little Google device on my desk where I can just say a thing, hey, blah, 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 start a 30-minute timer. And then I have a visual timer, kind of like a time timer, but I have it right there on my desk and I can do it without having to even touch it, just saying a thing out loud. And so for me, because I will spend 8 hours working on building a system and feel like it was 20 minutes, I set timers all the time. It's just like a mental check-in for myself. And so I'll try to, before building a system like that, try to tell myself I can't do more than this. And then I only get 30 minutes to work on this. And then when that 30-minute timer goes up, I'll be like, all right, but 15 more. But that check-in helps me realize time is passing, because then it's not, I'll only spend 30 minutes on this. And oh no, 8 hours went by and I didn't realize it. So it's all about kind of creating those check-ins that I'm naturally not going to have. And so I have to physically make something interrupt me so that I can have that oh yeah, what's going on? Oh, I was doing this. Oh wow, it's only been half an hour and I'm still messing with the layout at the top of this. I should maybe move on. It's, the example, that you had mentioned. I think that was maybe before the call, but the example from my book where I need to build a button for an interface. And instead I build this elaborate design system. If I'm not aware of time passing, I'm going to build the best button design system in the world and never ship it. Which is again why the writing challenge worked for me, because I had to ship it every single day. So I think it's that time piece that really is the key to actually making something like that work. So you don't just spend your whole life building systems and never using any of them.
like the one that I built for the team in Notion, or maybe my own version of Bootstrap that I was like, I don't like Bootstrap. I'm going to create my own CSS system.
Oh, you too?
Build everything. Oh, yeah, man. Come on. How can I not?
Yep.
I think my takeaway from this section, though, was in the book, you had talked about sometimes, a lot of times we will put pressure on ourselves to get to a certain point. I have to write 20 pages or and to instead marry that to time as well. So this time marriage it can be interesting of instead of saying I have to get through page 57 or whatever it is, saying I'm going to write for 30 more minutes or,
Right.
I loved that.
Yeah. I had to do that a lot when I was writing my book, because in the beginning I would do that sort of stuff. Okay, I've got to write, 1,000 words today. And then what is the result of that? Well, if I don't hit 1,000 words, then I feel bad.
Yep.
And feeling bad does not motivate me to want to do this anymore.
Yep.
It does the opposite.
Yes.
And so it's much
Exactly.
more about doing, like you said, I'm going to write for 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then we'll see how many words I get. Maybe I'll get 200 words today. Maybe I'll get 5 words. Maybe I'll get 2,000.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but it's all about sort of getting into that rhythm of I'm going to write for this amount of time.
Yeah.
And I know there's other, that's kind of we're specifically talking about writing, but that is thing I've heard from other writers too, of don't get too married to the words per day or whatever it is.
Yep.
You just need to have dedicated time for writing, whether you're writing or not. You just need to make sure nothing else is happening. You're sitting there to write and you're sort of blocking off an amount of time to write. And for me, it's usually small amounts of time.
Okay.
I don't say 3 hours, because then I know that's not going to work. I'm going to be doing other stuff. So 30 minutes, I'm I can do 30 minutes of not checking social media, leave my phone in the other room, do all those things for this small amount of time, maybe 20 minutes, but whatever it is that works for you, so you can like be dedicated. And then what happens a lot of time is maybe I'll keep going. Like that timer will go off. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I know it's timer. I'm going to set another timer, and then I'm going to keep going because I feel like things are flowing right now and I don't have something else coming up. That's just like my check-in timer. And so always set a follow-up check-in timer. But then you can kind of like keep going. And like I said, I do that every day. I'm like setting timer. It's like timer to timer to timer just to give myself that little check-in.
So I think that kind of brings us to the end of our discussion. We've kind of danced around it a little bit. We started this podcast as the intersection between ADHD and TTRPGs. And when we started 50 something episodes ago at this point, we were like, there's not that much we're going to be able to talk about with these two things in every episode. Joke's on us. I've seen on your socials, you've hinted at, I think you and I even exchanged like a Threads chat once. Do you currently actively play D&D or?
Yeah, so I don't play D&D right now. I do, if you can see behind me, I have lots of board games.
Okay, great.
So like I'm way too often on Kickstarter getting the latest board game. And I actually we were talking about being competitive or not. I'm very competitive. And so I've actually stopped playing competitive board games. Yeah. Because it's a little harmful or threatening to my friendships. And so I actually really love.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jesse. That doesn't sound at all familiar.
So at some point, I can't remember when it was, but I basically started leaning into like cooperative board games. So that's kind of my jam. And it kind of is like kind of TTRPG light in a way, because a lot of times they're kind of like little role-playing type board games. That's mostly what I'm doing. I have done like D&D and other ones in the past. I did, this is like a way long callback. I don't even know if it's still around, but Vampire. I did Vampire the Masquerade like 25 years ago.
We played it at Gen Con last year.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was super fun. We had a few of our friends one of my friends had an older brother that led that, and he was really great as sort of running that. So I used to do it a lot more. I haven't really done any of that since like post pandemic, and kind of my board gaming groups as well kind of fizzled after that. We stopped hanging out together, and every once in a while we'll be like, we got to get the boys back together and do a board game night. So we'll do that every once in a while, but I don't have anything like consistent right now, which is a huge bummer, especially because like new board games keep showing up in the mail, and I'm not able to play a lot of them. Which is why
trust me,
I do a lot of solo gaming now, so that I can still at least like right now I mentioned before I can see like dice off in the distance. And that's because I have the 7th Citadel like set up on the table over there, where I've got a game going.
Ooh. You were already kind of touching on this earlier, is that one of AK's cool questions is, why do you think so many neurodivergent folks gravitate to TTRPGs or games of all kinds? And I think you were kind of saying it is that for at least the two of us, maybe not so much Allison, but the system building and the system learning and the system, like, I am what they call a forever GM. I do not take that as an insult. I wanted, after a few games because we're fairly new since the pandemic, it was our mental health, it was our performance, it was our emotional, it was our social, everything. So but after playing a few games, I was like, I've got to be the game master. I've got to be the person building these worlds. I've got to do that. And so, it does make sense that is the part that we love. And I think for me, no one is stopping me from doing that, which I love. Like, someone should stop me from working on Notion. Oh my God, they really should. But building a world, that's great. No one's going to keep me from that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's such a really interesting kind of intersection between a lot of being able to be like really creative and like, and same with like, as a player, like being like creatively approaching problems, and with like the systems, you have so much available because you have a live person that can respond to it. It's not like a video game. Like, I love video games too, but it's so much more open than that, because you can be really creative and you have someone able to like interpret your creative solution to an idea. So there's like that side of it. but it's also married with this other idea where there's very clear rules. Like, you know what the systems are, you know how things work. And I feel like that's something that sometimes it feels like the real world is missing what the rules are. It's like, I don't know what these rules are, especially like growing up. There's just like, everyone else seems to know what's going on. And I'm like, just barely trying to figure it out. Yeah. It feels like everyone knows the rules and I have to discover them by failing first. And then someone pointing out like, hey, there's a rule that you didn't know about. And so I think that may be a part of it too, like kind of those two opposite sides kind of meeting together in kind of an interesting way.
I had never thought about it. I have
not thought of that.
I love that phrase.
I know. Real life does not come with the player's handbook.
So the final
exactly.
The final bonus action that we'll give you, Matt and I are trying to put together ADHD-inspired spells. Maybe for D&D, maybe for our newest darling, Daggerheart. So, like, as an example, I cast Time Blindness. So now you're robbed of your reaction, your bonus action on a round because you just got so focused on something else. You know, I cast Hyperfixation. Not to put you too much on the spot if you can't think of anything, but if you were to be able to cast either as a boon or a bane, something that could help you in combat or, you know, in role playing, or something that could hurt somebody else.
You don't have to know the mechanics, but just like it's about the traits, turning them.
That's so interesting. I feel like the one that immediately jumps to mind for me is just the hyper focus, being able to almost like. I feel like it would almost grant you like additional rounds because when you hyper focus, it feels like everything around you slows down. You're almost like freezing time and because it doesn't feel fast to you.
Right.
Like it feels like I'm just doing my thing, but externally it is fast. It's almost like a super speed as I'm focused on this thing. And so I feel like something there with the mechanics, like maybe like some sort of extra round because you're hyper focused on this thing. But then you're also, the counter would be like, well, but now you're stuck in an action for like several rounds.
You could only pick one action and that's all you can do
and you're
for the next 5 rounds.
Ooh. So you get a bonus, you get a big bonus to it, but then you're stuck. So I think that's the two sides of like hyper focus is it can be great, but it's really hard to break out of it once you're in it. So.
I love that.
And if someone tries to break you out of it, you just
then you get your rage goes insane. That's great too. Adding in some sort of negative reaction if someone physically tries to pull you out of that hyper focus.
Okay.
Yes.
I hatched a new dream this morning because I knew that today was going to be awesome and it was going to be great to talk to you. I've decided that we need to have like an ADHd20 guest one shot. Because we have gotten to interview some really fun people. Is that something we could talk you out of a possible D&D or into a new game like Daggerheart?
That would be amazing. I think most of my experience with kind of doing D&D and stuff like that is one shots, mostly because we get everyone together, we get really excited, we build a new characters. And then we're like, is anyone free in 2 weeks? No.
Right. Okay. Scheduling is the ultimate big bad. Scheduling indoors are things that are going to kill any party.
Yeah. So I think that would be awesome.
Okay.
I'd definitely be down for that.
That's my new dream that I want to have happen this year is that we get the alums of the ADHd20 guest panels and we just have like we'll get maybe Tay to GM it and we'll all just, and especially if we can create players that are fueled by their ADHD, maybe this is how we could unveil these spells. So you could cast your hyper focus, but I just want to.
You really did do a bunch of thinking on this.
I did think about. That's what I was thinking about this morning. I was like, I really want to. I feel like it's going to be cool. And I mean, here's the thing: if you had been a total dud, which you haven't been, let me not trigger any RSD here. We also have other cool guests that would also be fun to play with. But I was like, I bet we're going to want to play with Jesse. So here I am saying it live out loud on air that we're going to do this. And
you're manifesting.
I'm manifesting it, and the preparation for this session was what made me think of it because we were so excited to host you and have you.
I know.
Tell us a little bit about, as we kind of wrap this up, where can we find you? Where should we follow you? What's next? Yeah.
What's new? Things? Yeah.
So what was that?
A sequel to the book.
Bonus action.
Yeah, so I have like million things going on. I will say, you can follow me on pretty much all the social networks, at ADHD Jesse. That's my username everywhere.
Yes.
And the book is called Extra Focus, and I also have a weekly newsletter called Extra Focus. And so extrafocus.com gets you to the newsletter. That's probably the best place to go because everything else that's going on, I talk about there. I am also building on the side. I'm building an app called WavePal, and it's an app that's for helping you stay in touch with your friends, because that's something I'm really bad at. I always, it's just the out of sight, out of mind. Yep. I forget that this really important person in my life that I haven't talked to them in 2 years. And so we're building, a buddy and I are building this app, WavePal, to help you remember to kind of reach out to people. And that's at WavePal.
Can I ask just for a second, how does that, well, I'll now I didn't know there was a website. I'll go to that. But like, basically, how does it work? Like, what magic can you cast in order to keep me from losing my dear friends that I do? I have the exact same problem.
Oh, we're out here.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that we're going to be kind of navigating and figuring out, because it's like with anything, there's not just like this is the solution. But the way a lot of what it works is, so you add people to it, add your friends and family, and you can track, like, keep notes on people. And so I come from the, like PKM background of like that stuff that really interests me. So I want to be able to have like a database of people important in my life where I can look up gift ideas, or like my wife likes some flowers and hates other ones. I would really like to have a good reference for
kids'
that.
Names are.
Or kids' names. Yeah, exactly. Like
your kids.
What was my best friend? What's his wife's name again? I somehow forgot. Like being able to have that on hand. So that's sort of like one half of the app, is being able to store all those details. And then also you basically can like track, we call it waves because it's like a wave house. So you track your interactions with people. Like, so I was just at a conference a month ago, and so I added a wave for several people that I hung out with there. And then I have it set up like, if it's been 3 months since your last wave with your buddy Peter, you'll get like a little notification to remind you. And you can snooze it, but you're at least getting, again, it's like the timer thing, like something to just sort of like jump into your interrupt you for a second to be like, hey, just a reminder, you can snooze this, but just a reminder, like maybe now is a good time to reach out to this friend and send them, a new wave or whatever. And we have like a million ideas for things we want to do to it. Obviously, you start small and then you just build and build and build on that. So that's been one of my major hyper focuses lately, working on that.
Cool. I can't wait for that then. Yeah. Amazing.
So this has been awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you both for having me. It's been great to chat. ADHD, a little bit of gaming, and all that nerdy fun. So this is awesome.
Yeah. Jesse, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part.
Thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you for being on our podcast.
There's one of our many weird side offs. All right, everybody. See y'all later.
Yeah. ADHd20 is a creation from The Pocket Dimension, a multiverse where we explore neurospies,
rolling dice,
and so much more. Come chat with us in our Discord server, open to all. The join link is in our show notes.
Ready to level up your support? Check out the Pocket Dimensions Patreon, where you can get access to bonus content, be the first to hear new episodes, and even play TTRPGs with us and our friends.
The best way you can help us, though, is just to share the gift of ADHd20 with the people that you think will like it.
We love that you're here. Thank you for entering the Pocket Dimension.